shadow raids, new battle mechanics, a fully revamped character creator, a brand new AR gameplay mode called Photo Safari, and hints that we might actually see a Master Ball coming to the game soon are all features that have been data mined from recent updates to Pokemon Go. All the information in this video is sourced from the hard work of the Pokeminers, who keep a running blog data mining each and every update that comes to the game. I'm going to summarize the major findings in this video, but I highly recommend you check out the full blog for even more info. And keep in mind, because this is data mined info, none of it's been officially announced. Anything could get scrapped at any time. In fact, even the Pokemon contests that I talked about in my last video, they got removed from the code entirely for about a month and then just randomly showed up again in this latest version. So yeah, things get pretty messy, but I think it's fun to get a sneak peek at what might be coming to the game next. So let's start things off with one of the biggest new features, shadow raids. As the name suggests, these would be a whole new category of raids involving battling and catching shadow Pokemon. And it might be the first time we ever see raids hosted by NPCs. In this case, the Rocket Grunts, or maybe some new characters. The code suggests these raids come in multiple levels, or maybe that's some kind of difficulty setting, and that they would also require their own special kind of raid pass. This image was also found in the code, but we don't know if this is going to be the final design of this new raid pass. There were also two new items found in the code, a reference to a Shadow Gem and Shadow Gem fragments. While we have no evidence on what these actually do yet, it seems pretty logical that you would fuse Shadow Gem fragments into Shadow Gems. Maybe these are special drops from beating Shadow raids, or maybe they have something to do with the next feature in our list, new battle mechanics. Now there's technically two things here. The first is a system of move modifiers that will probably be used in both raids and PvP. The blog has a lot of technical detail on how this actually works, but essentially it just means that certain moves can perform differently depending on certain battle conditions. Like the move Blaze from the main series games, which becomes more powerful if a Pokemon's HP is low. Now that sort of thing would be possible in Pokemon Go battles. And a move modifier system like this could also be laying the groundwork for future support for things like Z moves. Even form changing is referenced in the code, meaning Pokemon will be able to transform during battle, like high Gigantamaxing maybe in the future. Not that I'm expecting to see that anytime soon, but similar to how Mega Evolution kind of paved the way for Primal Reversion, this move modifier system is basically just the first big step to supporting more advanced battle mechanics in general. But even that's not the end of it, because it looks like we're also getting support for battle items, specifically the ability to use an item during a raid. Again, we have no idea what we would actually be allowed to use this for. The blog speculates that maybe this is a way to bring potions into battle so we can heal during a fight, or if you remember the Shadow Gems I mentioned earlier, maybe this is just a feature for shadow raids and there's some reason why you have to bring Shadow Gems into battle and maybe use them at specific times during the fight. We don't know, but it's kind of exciting to think that we might just be getting a more interesting raid experience in general. And speaking of new and interesting things, it looks like we might be getting a real character creator. In the code, this seems to be a complete rework of the current avatar system. We might finally be allowed to adjust various physical details about our character's body types, which has been just something that people have been asking for ages. Like, it is pretty ridiculous that all this time everyone's avatars look essentially the same except for the clothes that they're wearing. And speaking of which, they're also completely overhauling the style shop. So now there'll be a cart system. You can try on multiple pieces of clothes or accessories at the same time and then buy them all as a set. Essentially just a lot of quality of life improvements, which is great to hear because character customization in the shop have been something that I've needed some kind of refresh for a long time, and I'm glad to finally see it. Another thing that I'm glad to see, new gameplay modes. Introducing AR photo safaris. Now this is a really big feature that is either going to be really fun and cool or just another huge gimmick that we only really mess with once and then forget about it. We haven't had any new AR only features added to this game since like 2017 when they first created the AR plus catching experience. You know that thing with the bushes and you sneak up on Pokemon and catch them in AR? Oh, you don't know about that? Because nobody uses it? Okay, fair enough. Well, if you were wondering what Niantic was doing with all that AR scanning data they've been begging us to get from Pokestops, this is it. Based on what we can see in the code, this seems to be some kind of Pokemon Snap style mini game that has you sync up to a Pokestop in AR mode, which will trigger a bunch of Pokemon to spawn around that Pokestop, and then you'll have to seek them out using your phone as a camera to take pictures and to complete a list of tasks. Now, it seems like the Pokemon in this AR session are actually going to be like moving around, and some might even be following you, and that you can interact with them to trigger special animations to get better photos, I guess. We don't know if there's going to be some kind of incentive to do this, or if it's just kind of a fun bonus gimmick mode, kind of like the picnics in the main series game. There were also some strings of text found that hint at a special research involving Ho-Oh called Rainbow Skies, which to me is a very obvious reference to that scene in the Pokemon anime where Ash sees a Ho-Oh flying overhead. And while I'm normally pretty skeptical about how Niantic tries to kind of shoehorn in these AR features into the game, I think in the right context, this could actually be pretty cool. Because yeah, I mean, most people don't really use AR features in their daily gameplay, but if you were at a special event and you could sync up to a Pokestop at a park and look up and see a giant Ho-Oh flying above the park, like I would get a kick out of that as like a one-off experience, even if it's just an excuse for, you know, photo ops. But I still think a lot of these features are better suited for like the distant future when we have like actual AR glasses, because you just can't get around the fact that it is awkward playing games in full AR mode. Like, people don't want to be pointing their phones around in random directions during gameplay. And it's also possible that this photo safari mode is just a creative way for Niantic to gather more scanning data, because the whole point of the gameplay is you're scanning your phone around a Pokestop looking for Pokemon. Like, you're not even catching them, you're just taking pictures. So I see you, Niantic, I see what you're trying to do. But yeah, those are all the big new features that have come up in the past month and a half since I made the last video. But there are some smaller discoveries and updates to previously found features that I just want to run through real quick. Like, very soon we should be able to see how many people are in a raid lobby from the map without having to check each gym individually. It also seems like we'll be able to add trainers and send friend requests from inside of the raid lobby. We might even be getting the Master Ball soon. There was some text pointing to some kind of Master Ball tutorial in the code. The game is also now counting how many times you squash. I don't know what this means, but I'm very curious. It also seems like the Today view and the quest list might be getting some pretty big visual updates, which honestly, I think this is very needed. I feel like these have been very cluttered screens that just involve a lot of scrolling. And it could also be because contests are back in the code, and it seems like they're going to have some kind of consistent schedule that you'll be able to view in game. So it would make sense that they're reworking the Today view to kind of make room for that. There was also a new badge added for contests labeled as Max Size First Win, which just further confirms that Pokemon sizes are going to play a big role in these contests. So yeah, you might actually want to keep some of those huge and tiny Pokemon if you've just been throwing them out this whole time. And then the routes feature is getting completely gutted and reworked inside out. The blog suspects this might be due to a change in staff. This feature's been in development for what, 4 years now, and was probably due for a complete overhaul, to be honest. And if you have no idea what routes are or what these contests will involve, you know, we don't have all the details yet. Again, they haven't been officially announced, but I did cover both features in my last datamine video, so feel free to check that out. But yeah, that's essentially all the new stuff for now. Again, I highly recommend checking out the Pokeminers blog posts to get the full info dump. There's a lot of little small details that I just didn't think would make sense to cover here in this format, but I think they're interesting to read about, especially if you want to form your own speculations on what you might think all this stuff is kind of adding up to. And if you have any theories of your own, let me know in the comments. I think personally I'm most excited for the Photo Safari, even though that could also end up being like the worst new feature of the bunch. And not even because it's not going to work or the tech is going to be bad, because Niantic has made it very clear this is the direction they want to take AR games. And if you know anything about the Lightship platform and other companies that are working on AR games, a lot of them are utilizing this new VPS or visual positioning system. So again, if you've been wondering why Niantic has been wanting to gather all this AR scanning data, it's for this system, because it basically lets you point your phone in AR mode at a Pokestop object, and that will sync your position to the globe with a centimeter precision and lets you view things in AR that were either placed there by Niantic or maybe by other players if you can like drop items or Pokemon in certain places in the future. And again, as a tech demo, I think that's actually pretty cool. I'm just not sure if there's going to be like a good way to interact with it on a gameplay level. Like, I'm not sure this is really going to add that much to how Pokemon Go works right now. But again, very telling for where they want Pokemon to go in the future, and it's definitely going to be something that's going to be better on headsets than it would be on phones, I think. And like I kind of mentioned in my last video, with the presence of hand tracking and other features that were data mined, I really think we might be seeing some headset demos coming very soon. And if you like this style of video, consider subscribing. I love reading patch notes and behind the scenes details so that you don't have to. And you can expect a video maybe once a month. That seems to be kind of the update cycle for new versions. Sometimes there's little bits of information, but generally I like like to let a lot of it pile up before making an entire video covering it all. But yeah, that's going to do it for this update. Let me know if you have any thoughts in the comments, and until next time, thanks for watching.